everyone. Good morning. You're sipping coffee with Spider and hearing me talk about the news. Who's Spider? That's me. It's your good buddy Spider. And the news is the news. And I'm here to tell you about it. Have some breakfast, drink some coffee. Get real friendly. So, let's get right down to it and jump right into the news, okay? Okay. Reuters, with the story continuing to develop from the last several days, Israel bombs South Lebanon after Hezbollah rocket fire. Hamas was first, and Hezbollah is next, I guess. I believe they're two second. I believe they're two separate organizations. Let me see here. Yep, yeah, Hamas and Hezbollah are both Palestinian anti-Israeli designated terrorist organizations. And so that situation has just gotten a little bit more complicated because I think it's become a coordinated all-out assault against the Israeli state. Now, I don't have an opinion on who's right and who's wrong as far as the politics part between Palestine and Israel. I don't have a decision on that. It's not my thing. But stuff like this shouldn't be going on. This is a problem for everybody, absolutely everybody. And people are dying left and right, and who knows if either side is still going to have any country left or any state after it's all said and done. We will keep an eye on that. Moving on to PBS NewsHour, Republicans nominate Steve Scalise for House Speaker. No, they're going to try to get a floor vote to elect him now that they've removed McCarthy. He survived a mass shooting some years ago. He was injured and he survived, but he's also got cancer. And I don't want to say that's how. I don't want to say that's something that necessarily needs to be considered, but it's something to keep in mind. The health of these people is very important if they're going to get into these positions. They're extra stressful and things like that. So I don't know, like people like McConnell and Feinstein was on way too long, and now she's passed on. McConnell needs to move on before he passes off in office. But we'll see how this happens. I'm not too invested in the major parties and Republicans and Democrats, so whoever they pick, I don't much care. I don't think it'll make a huge difference, honestly. What's next? Now this is another tricky area that I'm not sure I want to get too deep into. But Newsweek, new Titan sub photo released as human remains recovered. They're still looking to try to recover as much of the crew and passengers as possible. It was a very unfortunate situation. I am not one of those people who made a big joke or made a big thing about billionaires and whatever. And it's a tragic situation. It shouldn't have happened. A lot of mistakes were made, but lives were lost, and I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's funny. So anybody who comes on and tries to say, "Oh, good job getting rid of the billionaires," yeah, it's not funny. It's not something to make fun of. It's not something to be smug over. It isn't. Don't come at me with that. Loudwire with an interesting headline, which maybe explains a few things. Metallica's James Hetfield says Lars Ulrich never rehearsed for concerts until this point. in recent memories. So, maybe it's just because their songs sounded the same for so long that he didn't have to differentiate his drum beats too much. I don't know. Maybe he just knew how his songs were. Maybe his brain's really good. I don't know. It's an interesting thing about Metallica. Very interesting. Associated Press. Federal judge won't block suspension of right to carry guns in some New Mexico parks and playgrounds. Now that's a weirdly written headline. So let's get into the meat of this to find out what that's saying. Pardon me. Got a little of this coffee in my throat. All right. Here we go. A federal judge cleared the way Wednesday for enforcement of a public health order that suspends the right to carry guns at public parks and playgrounds in New Mexico's largest metro area. So that means that you can't carry firearms there. And he rejected a request from gun rights advocates to block temporary restrictions as legal challenges move forward. So it's going to go to the Supreme Court, I'm sure. And it'll become another major Second Amendment issue. We'll keep an eye on that and see how that goes. PC Gamer. Bungie is giving Destiny 2 players $45 of in-game currency to say sorry for accidentally banning them from the game. Bungie is the worst these days. Like, come on. The old Halo games, pretty good. Quality got strange as time went on, but, for the most part, really good. First Destiny, just, they never could get it right. They kept messing it up. And then Destiny 2 has been a garbage fire since day one. Like, they can't. They don't know what they're doing. They need to get out of the live service thing. They need to stop. They have no idea how to upkeep servers. They have no idea how to deal with data retention. They don't know what they're doing. They ban people for the worst reasons. Like, come on. Meanwhile, people are in their multiplayer talking the worst smack, almost as bad as some of the Call of Duty players. And come on now. It's ridiculous. Bungie just needs to give up. Give up, Bungie. You dropped the ball. You dropped the ball. You're done. You're all done. Step aside. ABC News. With this, again, the story continues. U.S. working with Egyptian and Israeli counterparts to secure safe passage out of the Gaza Strip. And they're trying to get as many civilians out as possible. Apparently, there's been some Americans that have been taken hostage. And, it's again, a very messy situation, and it's only getting worse. And it's only been a few days. So, once again, still monitoring that situation. Reuters says internet companies report biggest ever denial of service operation. Because that's how it's not hackers these days that take down websites. It's massive amounts of AI-driven bots basically clicking on a website thousands of times a second or more, so that the site can't keep up with so many requests for data, and it basically implodes. A DDoS, directed denial of service attack. And these are getting more and more common because you can do these yourself. I'm not going to explain how. I'm not explaining where you go to do it, and I'm not going to say anything about whether I've done it or not because I have not, and I don't want anybody getting any implications out of that. I know how it's done, and I know where you go, and I'm not going to tell you because I don't want you to play games with that because it's not funny. I want my websites to load. I don't want them to go down just because somebody attacked a random server somewhere. That's irritating. It doesn't do anybody any good. But apparently it's increasing. It's getting worse. consequence of sound with your goofball laugh of the day. Woman confronts staff at Whole Foods for playing Tool song, calling it death metal. I don't even want to read the article. It's a clickbait headline. It's spoilers. It's just some random lady who doesn't know what metal is, doesn't like Tool. Tool is nowhere near death metal. Like, they are not remotely the same. You may not like Tool, and I get that. Some people don't, and that's fine. Whatever, but it's not death metal. It's pretty tame compared to death metal. As far as the noise threshold goes, anyway. NBC politics. Oh, this is going to be messy. White House plans to put Ukraine, Taiwan, and border funding in its Israel request. Oh, oh, oh. This is some hardball because they want to keep sending money to Ukraine. And people are interested in keeping Taiwan out of Chinese hands. So Taiwan has been kind of on the table more, as a thing against China. So that's more accepted than Ukraine. Border funding is a huge deal. And there's still people on the fence about Israel. So there's going to be a lot of arguments about that. Huge amount of arguments. And I'll bet anybody who votes against it is going to be labeled as anti-Israel, anti-this, anti-that, regardless of what part of it that they had a problem with. This is all about optics. The White House is wising up to some of these optics. They've been pretty bad about them up to this point, but this is one of those things where they're trying to get people to put their money where their mouths are, and it's going to be a mess. Oh, well. Associated Press. NASA shows off its first asteroid samples delivered by a spacecraft. So the OSIRIS-REx samples that came from asteroid Bennu not too long ago are on display. Not, I think, publicly for everybody, but I think there's ways you can see them, and I think there's probably pictures and video. So if you want to see that up close, showed Associated Press. KIRO7 News, everything you need to know about upcoming eclipse in western Washington. I don't know if we'll be able to see the eclipse from where I am in Ohio, but it is upcoming. Let's see. Saturday morning in Washington State, not Washington D.C. It's this annual solar eclipse. You might be able to see it here. We probably can. Western coastal time on that end is that's Pacific time. That's the specific word for it. Pacific time is 3 hours behind Ohio. Or should it be ahead? I don't know. If it's 8 o'clock there, it's 11 o'clock here. Okay. In the AM. So you'll have some time Saturday morning. And we'll see if we can see it from where I am. Solar eclipse. Sneeze coming on. Oh, pardon me. Popular Science, the fastest ever human-made object keeps breaking its own speed record. And what is the fastest made object? Something in space. The Parker Solar Probe. Apparently, at top speed, it could go from New York City to Los Angeles in just 20 seconds. Ooh, boy. It's picking up speed from all the space energy and the slingshot stuff it's doing around the sun. So, very interesting. Very interesting. Reuters paywalled, of course. Gasoline, food drive U.S. producer prices higher even as core inflation cools. And it's interesting that they say that prices are going up while trying to say that inflation is cooling when it clearly is not if the prices are still going up. Cooling would mean there'd be some kind of relief. And there isn't. The prices are ridiculous right now just to eat. My groceries, compared to this time last year, have doubled for the same or less amount of food. It's frightening. It is a frightening situation. And these people who say that it's getting better are out of touch and completely delusional. Absolutely delusional. I'm standing by that. I've seen the effects right here on the same products that I buy every month. And I've had to completely change my eating habits. And I don't mean I wasn't eating like steak and things before. I wasn't eating rich before. I was eating average, just, regular foods. And man, I'm having to cut. I'm having to cut so many things. I get more hungry these days than I did before because I'm just not able to eat the same foods because it's too expensive. It's not a joke and it's not funny, and inflation is not cooling down. We got a serious problem. Certainly. IGN Assassin's Creed Mirage player count is in line with Origins and Odyssey's launches, Ubisoft says, which is, pretty fair. The one thing that you always want to see is that there's more people playing. But if there's about the same people playing, at least you know that there's your core audience is continuing on. It's not shrinking. The thing you don't want to see is lower numbers. You don't want to see less people playing a new title. You want to see at least the same amount or more that played the last title or the one before. And I think that's a good metric. It shows that they have a loyal fan base, a loyal player base. PBS NewsHour, Trump's fraudulent financial statements were key to getting loans, former bank official says. So things in that area are getting juicy. Although, to be fair, I don't think any of us really need to know any of this. A lot of this stuff should be done out of the public eye. If you're going to go after him, don't make it a public spectacle because that's what he's after, and that's only going to make him stronger. The optics are what's important, and he's going to capitalize. He's going to be the nominee for the Republican Party. Biden is going to get his votes pulled by RFK Jr. Both of them will lose to Trump. I guarantee it. Both of them will lose to Trump. The more that things keep pushing. We'll see. Associated Press counterpointing the earlier story about how inflation is supposedly cooling. Wholesale inflation in the United States rises 2.2% in September, biggest year-over-year gain since April. What did I just say? Not 2 minutes ago. The inflation is not getting better. It's getting worse. Polygon with the details. I'm not going to go ahead and take too close a look at this because it's not really my bag, but if you could create the next One Piece or Naruto, here's your chance. If you want to find out what they're talking about, check out Polygon and find out. Another one in the anime arena from comicbook.com, Netflix's Yu Yu Hakusho live action series release date announced. They're just pumping out these live action things. They got the One Piece one, they got this coming up, they've got all kinds of them just left and right. I don't watch any of it. I'm not interested in Japanese anime, so live action really isn't going to do much good for me. But I'm not going to hate on it either. A lot of people love it. By all means, enjoy, do your thing. Just don't expect me to get super excited. Oh, once again, taking advantage of a situation to call for censorship. PBS NewsHour says social media companies criticized as Israel-Hamas war misinformation spreads rampantly. Well, that's kind of how news works. If you don't want it to spread badly, you have to report the facts, and too many people report opinions, and then it gets distorted and passed around like telephone. It's not the social media company's fault. It's how people are, and you can't censor people. You can try, but you can't. People will continue to do what they want to do and say what they want to say. And that's just unfortunately how it's going to go. Anything further than that is an attempt to censor free speech. And that's something that I'm 100% against. As long as it's not hateful, whatever against people using racial slurs and things, then people should be able to say what they want, even if it's false. And it's up to people to educate themselves for whether they believe it or not. That's just how it should work. Let's see. What's next? There's a lot of the same stories. A lot of repeat stories. I'm trying to find something that's a little bit different to add because I don't want to give up this early. I still got a few minutes to go. Dogs over there fussing about. IGN, Blizzard locks Overwatch 2's hotly anticipated Diablo 4 skins behind $40 bundles, sparking backlash. Ooh boy. Between Overwatch and Fortnite and PUBG and all these other things, this is where they make their money. They make their money from these skins, and they charge these ridiculous prices, and you're spending out the backside for it. And people are just now finally getting up and being like, nah, why should I spend that much? I don't know. People have let games expenses get bad for years. Microtransactions have become a thing for so long, people are kind of like immune, kind of numb to the effects. Only now, with the inflation and all the stuff about the money, people are low on money and things. They're just now realizing how much that stuff costs. NBC Politics with a curious headline. Trump wants to subpoena missing January 6th committee records in election interference case. I didn't realize anything was missing. Trump's team argued there was significant overlap between the House committee's investigation and special counsel Jack Smith's federal probe. And they said that there were certain missing records that could be relevant to his defense. Well, it's an interesting tactic. We'll see how it goes. And that's really looking like what it is. Like every other story, again, is the Israel stuff. And There's only so much I want to talk about that. I don't want that to dominate every conversation, even if it's an important world event. So I guess once again we have to shut down early. This is turning into a 25-minute show instead of a half-hour show. Oh well, I guess. Plus the dog's over here waking up. She'll probably have to go to the bathroom, like she always does. And so I guess I got things to do. In the meantime, I'm going to let you off the hook. I'm going to go have my own breakfast. Probably just a Pop-Tart or something. I want you to have a good breakfast, though. Go have something good. It's free reign. You pick what you want. I'm not going to suggest anything. You go pick your breakfast. Pick your beverage. Go do that. Get big and strong like your good buddy Spider. And take on the day with your fist. You hear me? With your